Hi everybody, welcome back to my music channel. In today's video, I'm going to be doing a review on the brand new album by Taylor Swift called Reputation. So as I always do with my reviews, I'm going to do a review on each track individually and then give my kind of overall thoughts on the album at the end. And because I also got the magazine edition from Target, I will show you some more close-up details of what the magazine looks like. The first track is called Ready For It, and when I initially heard this when she released it as a single, I was a little bit on it. I wasn't quite sure how to feel about it because the whole like talk, rapping, singing kind of thing isn't something that she does a lot. So it was a little bit kind of strange to hear her doing that. And I thought it sounded a little bit silly, but the more that I listened to the song, the more that it grew on me, and I would say that it's actually become one of my favorites. The next one is Endgame featuring Ed Sheeran and Future. This is the only feature on the album, and she has collaborated with Ed Sheeran before. They did the song Everything Has Changed on her album Red, but she's never collaborated with Future, and she's never had a rapper in one of her songs before, so that was kind of interesting. I think Endgame is definitely one of my favorites. I like the kind of combination of the piano with the hip-hop beats. I think that sounds really cool. It is a little bit strange to hear her doing something more hip-hop influenced because she just doesn't really do that. I don't think it was really necessary to have Future on the track. I don't think that he really adds much to the song. Like, I get that they wanted a rapper because it was like a hip-hop influenced song, and like Future has been on a lot of pop singers' songs. Like, he's collaborated with Miley Cyrus, he's collaborated with Ariana Grande, so I kind of get why he was like put on there, but I feel like he just doesn't really add anything to the song. And I guess I kind of like Ed Sheeran being on the song, but I feel like both of them kind of could have just, like, I feel like the track could have been fine even without them on it. Like, I think the song itself is actually quite good with just Taylor on it, but at the very least, I don't think Future was really necessary to have on it. I think his voice is a little too auto-tuned, and it kind of just, like, throws everything off a little bit. Overall, Endgame is one of my favorite songs, and it's really catchy, gets stuck in your head. The next one is I Did Something Bad. I was not quite sure how to feel about this one at first. I actually initially thought it was a little bit fillerish because it does kind of repeat itself, but the more that I listened to it, the more that it grew on me. What I think of it as being, it sounds very much like a theme song for a villain. Like, I could picture Cruella de Vil like walking down the street while singing this or something. So I think that has a very cool kind of swagger to it, and it sounds very villainous and kind of evil, and that's probably the point of the song. I just think it has like a very good tone to it, and it's very catchy, although it does get a little bit repetitive, but it is one of my favorites. The next one is Don't Blame Me, and I think this was the first song that I heard that really wowed me because it was so unexpected in a good way for her. It has a very gospel-y kind of soul influence to it, and when I was first listening to it, I was, listening to it, and I was kind of like, okay, it's kind of just like plodding along, but when it got to the bridge, that's where the vocals like really came out, and it has this kind of gospel choir sound to it that sounds really powerful, and then she kind of hits these high notes that you wouldn't expect her to do. So I feel like she really stepped up her game with this song, where she kind of did something that she's never done before, and she really went for like some high vocals and stuff. So this is one of my favorites. I think it's a very surprising track, and it's like one of the ones that really stands out on the album. The next one is Delicate, and at first I was a little bit kind of on it. I thought it was a little bit maybe boring, but it's actually quite nice the more that you listen to it, especially if you're just doing something in the background, like if you're driving or you're doing work or something like that. And it's just nice to have it on in the background, but even if you're just listening to it, it's more in the style of a ballad, but it's still like up-tempo, and I really enjoy songs like that. It's just got a really nice beat, and it's very like chill and relaxing to listen to, I think. The next one is the single Look What You Made Me Do. This was the first taste of the album. This was like the first reveal of the new Taylor and the kind of dark Taylor. I was kind of not sure what to think about it when I first heard it. I actually really liked it except for the chorus, and I think that was a common sentiment amongst a lot of the fans, is that the chorus could have been a lot better. It's just very monotone, and I don't know if they copied I'm Too Sexy on purpose or they just realized that it sounded the same, but I just think the chorus could have been a little bit better. Like, I read that apparently Look What You Made Me Do was actually based off of a poem that she had written, and there was more to it, but then they just decided to leave the Look What You Made Me Do line. In some ways, I can understand the chorus being as blasé as it is, because it's like, you know, I hate you so much, you're not even worth me wasting all these words on you. So, like, I kind of get the intention behind it, but I just think, like, the verses themselves are very kind of spooky and interesting, but the chorus just kind of falls really flat. But I guess once you've listened to the song a bunch of times, it kind of starts to grow on you, and that's what I found. So it actually did become one of my favorites, and I really like the production of it, especially when you listen to the entire album. I feel like this song really stands out on its own because the production is so unique. It's very spooky and Halloween-y sounding, and it kind of reminds me of like those vintage Hollywood films in the, like, with the strings and that kind of stuff. It has like this very vintage Hollywood sound. It's very theatrical and very dramatic, kind of. The next one is So It Goes, and this is probably I would say my least favorite track on the album overall. I just think it's a little bit boring. I don't think the melody is super interesting, and yeah, I just find it a little bit boring. It's just not one I would really listen to that often. The next one is Gorgeous, and this was another track that we had gotten to hear before the album came out. I don't really care for the baby voice in the beginning. I think it's like a little weird. But other than that, I really love the song, actually. This was another one where initially I was like, it's okay, but the more that you listen to it, the more that it grows on you. It's very catchy. It really gets stuck in your head. Like, the chorus, it gets stuck in your head so easily, and you'll find yourself singing it, like, when you're not even realizing it. And I think this is one of the tracks that sounds a little bit more similar to, like, the 1989 kind of style. I think everybody really enjoys the lyric about, guess I'll just stumble on home to my cats. I thought that was a really creative and kind of funny lyric that she put in there. The next one is Getaway Car. Now, I see this one as being the fan favorite off the album. It seems to me that this is kind of the fan favorite, and I do think it's very good. I don't know if I would say it's my favorite on the album, but I get why a lot of people like it, and I think it's kind of a favorite for people who don't maybe like the rest of the album. Everybody seems to really like Getaway Car. I think it's very catchy. I don't know if I'd say I like it as much as everybody else does, but I do think it's one of the better tracks on the album. The next one is King of My Heart. This is another one that I would say is a lesser favorite of mine. I think the more that I've listened to it, the more it's grown on me. At first, I didn't really like it because it sounded very disjointed to me. It sounded like two completely different songs, which I found out later was actually intentional to symbolize the different phases of a relationship. So, like, then I tried to listen to it with that in mind. I think it's still just one I'm like, I could kind of take it or leave it. There's always a few tracks on albums that I just skip, and so this would probably be one of them. Like, I don't think it's a bad song, but it's just not one that I'd probably choose to listen to very often. The next one is Dancing With Our Hands Tied, and this is one of my top favorites. My favorite song has kind of changed over the course of listening to the album. So Dancing With Our Hands Tied, I think, was probably my initial favorite, but it's kind of changed. But this is definitely one of my favorites. It is kind of another song that is a throwback to that 1989 sound. It's a little bit more fun and kind of upbeat. I think for anybody who enjoyed the 1989 album, you would enjoy this song in particular. The next one is Dress. So I have a funny story about this song. So this is definitely one of the, I would say it's the most sexual song that she's ever put out, but it's not like vulgar in any way, but it's definitely the most risque song that she's ever released. But initially when I heard this song, I was listening to the iTunes previews the day the album came out, and I didn't have any headphones on. So when I heard this song, I honestly thought she was saying call my name into my nipples. And then I found out later she was actually saying carve your name into my bedpost. So I'm really glad that that's not what she was saying, because I was like, I'm really surprised to hear her say the word nipple in a song. But she's not. So, but even still, it is a quite sensual song for her, which a lot of people have praised her for kind of going outside of her comfort zone to do that. I don't know. The song kind of doesn't really do much for me. Like, I do appreciate the kind of cleverness behind it, where when she's saying, bought this dress so you could take it off, when she's saying off, she, like, does this kind of staccato thing with it that to me sounds like it's supposed to be like an orgasm kind of. So like I get the kind of how she kind of did that sexual imagery in the vocal performance of the song. So I think that was pretty clever. But otherwise it's not really my kind of song. It does kind of remind of songs like Let's Get It On by Marvin Gaye, those kind of classic sex songs kinds of things. So this is probably like that. This is probably this generation's like Let's Get It On maybe kind of thing. But it's just a little bit too slow and kind of boring to me. I don't know. It just doesn't really do anything for me. It's not my kind of song, and it's not really something I would ever listen to by choice, I guess. So this is probably the other song that I would skip on the album. The next one is This Is Why We Can't Have Nice Things. I was a little bit like not sure what to think about it at first, but the more that the song went on, the more that I actually just fell in love with it. I think it's one of the best songs on the album. It's so sarcastic and almost kind of theatrical. Like a lot of her songs, even since the earlier days of her career, she's always had a kind of a theatrical aspect to her songs and her shows and performances. So I feel like this one has that. I feel like if she does this one on the tour, it's going to have a very interesting kind of stage performance to it. It's definitely referring to like the whole Kanye West drama thing, and I just like how bitingly sarcastic it is, because I think that's just so her personality to do that, and it's very catchy and has a very unique sound, I think. The next one is Call It What You Want, and this was a song that we got to hear before the album dropped. This was initially also one of my favorites, like, you know, my favorite changed a bunch of times, and this was one of them that had been my favorite for a while. I think it's such a classic Taylor-sounding song. I really like the lyrics a lot, and I think it definitely gives us insight as to how hurt she was by the media and all the stuff that had gone on with, like, the Kanye West drama and Katy Perry and her sexual assault case and all that stuff. It really shows how hurt she was and why she stayed away for so long. And so it's really nice to hear her thoughts on that, and now that she feels like she can come back and she's stronger and stuff. I really like the lyric in particular when she's talking about wearing the guy's initials on a necklace, not because he owns me, but because he really knows me, because I can definitely relate to that lyric. And then the last track is called New Year's Day, and this is one of my favorites. I think this, at the current moment, might be my current favorite. It's the only track on the album that doesn't have excessive electronic elements. It actually doesn't have any. I think it's just piano and a little bit of guitar in there, which is really nice, and it's I think that makes it stand out on the album. It's a really nice way to close the album. I've loved all of her live performances of it, especially the one that she did on Jimmy Fallon where he talked about his mom dying. And it was a really weird coincidence that he was talking about how his mom would squeeze his hand 3 times, and then there's the lyric about squeezing her hand 3 times. It's just a really nice song. Like, it has this bittersweet feeling to it because it's talking about this really big party the night before and the midnight kiss and stuff, and then it's like the next day when you have to clean everything up, and it's like you want that person there. Like, I want your midnights, but I'll be cleaning up bottles with you on New Year's Day. Like, I think that's such a powerful meaning. Something that was kind of odd to me when I was first listening to it is that the piano seemed kind of offbeat to me. I don't know if that sounds that way to anybody else, or maybe it's just me, but then in all the live performances she seems to play the piano on beat, and I think it sounds much better. But I thought that that's something that throws me off a little bit, is the piano seems like it's kind of offbeat sometimes. But otherwise, I think it's a great song. I think it's, again, kind of a classic Taylor song, but still something new that we haven't heard before. I really like the concept. I like the lyrics behind it. And I just love the meaning and the message and the vibe, the feeling that it gives, where it's like this person who, even if you're cleaning up after a big party the next day and it's like a new year is starting, you've left the past behind and now it's like a new chapter, and it's like this is the person you want to share that with. It has a very bittersweetness to it, because I feel like New Year's has always had, for a lot of people, had a bittersweetness to it, where you're leaving the past behind but then you're starting a new chapter. And so I like how this song captures that. My overall thoughts, I was a super huge fan of the 1989 album. I really like the pop side of Taylor. I know a lot of people wish she would go back to country, but I really like her pop stuff too. 1989 is my favorite album of hers. It's one of my top favorite albums of all time. I just think that album is pretty much perfect in every way. I think every song is great, even though there were a few that I was like not so keen on, like there are on every album, but in general, I think that album is amazing. I love it. And so to me, Reputation is sort of a continuation of that, but it's like the dark version of it. And I think a lot of people would probably agree. Something that I don't really like about Reputation is that it is a bit samey. Like a lot of the songs kind of sound similar. A lot of them have a similar production style. A lot of them have a very heavy use of electronic instruments and program beats and stuff. So a lot of them sound a little bit the same. I feel like there's a lot less variety than like 1989 had. Like something that I really liked about 1989 is that even though it was electronic, I feel like everything was very unique in its sound and each song is very different and there was a great variety on there. Whereas with this album, I feel like there's less variety. I don't like that a lot of the songs are about her current boyfriend, Joe Alwyn, and then it's like there's a few about the Kanye drama and that's like it. There's really nothing groundbreaking on it. Like there's nothing except for like I said like the New Year's Day song maybe, but like there's nothing particularly super meaningful. Like there's a lot of great love songs on here, but there's nothing like, you know, like a Long Live or Clean or Ronin, like some of her more digging deep kind of stuff. I know a lot of people think this is probably her best album and they're like, oh, I love the new Taylor and all that stuff, but I honestly love 1989 a lot more. I don't think any album is ever going to surpass that for me. Like in terms of her albums, I don't think I'm ever going to love something more than 1989 because I also have a lot of positive memories associated with that album as well. But 1989 I think was just fantastic, and so because this is sort of similar but it's not 1989, that's why I can't get behind it 100%, but I do think it's a very good album. There's some really cool songs on here, very unique sounds. If you're not into pop or electronic music, you probably wouldn't like this because it is very, very heavily electronic, but at the same time, I don't think it's exactly typical for an electronic album. I do think it still has some unique kind of concepts and production that some pop albums don't have. Like Look What You Made Me Do, for example, I think is very unique in terms of electronic music. So I think even if you're not a super big fan of pop or electronic music, to maybe give it a chance because it doesn't sound like a lot of other pop albums do, but in general, you might not really like it because it is so heavily electronic. So some details about the album and the packaging and everything. So with Target, she did an exclusive release where she came out with 2 volumes of exclusive magazines, and each volume is unique. So each one has a different cover. So I picked up volume 1, and each volume has a different cover, and they also have like these back covers that look like they're sort of like a parody of like the gossip rag magazines, which is funny. And in the beginning, she has like a message about, like, she always has a prologue to each album. There's different like portraits that are beautifully done in each one. There's handwritten lyrics to some of the songs, and so they're split between the 2 volumes. And then there's also, what else is there in here? There's 2 different poems in each one. There's also different paintings in each one that she did herself. So, and they also have some like little behind the scenes tidbits of the filming of the Look What You Made Me Do music video, which is really interesting. So all in all, it's a really nice thing to get. They're $20 each, and I think for $20, it's a really good deal. You also do get the CD with it. So you get a physical copy of the CD, and I'll show you what the disc looks like. So that's what the actual disc looks like. You also get a lyric booklet, which is nice when they always include lyrics with the songs. So it's nice to have the lyrics of all the songs. And you also get like a little cardboard cutout thing. Basically when you just rip it out of the booklet, it's like a little cardboard carrying case thing to put the album and the booklet in. So that is my review of Reputation by Taylor Swift. I hope that you enjoyed watching it, and let me know down in the comments below what you think of Taylor's new album. Let me know what your favorite tracks are. Like I said, I think my favorite keeps changing. I think my favorite currently, I'm gonna say, is New Year's Day, and my least favorite is So It Goes. But really, I think it's a pretty solid album overall. Thank you so much for watching my review, and I hope to see you in my next video.